Bibliosophie.
Mais c'est bien comme ça.
This is my nighttime weepy. So I'm actually rather scared of heights. And also I'm wearing espadrilles. Hello, how are you? Happy Monday. Please excuse, first of all, the little sounds that you might hear in the background. That is the stove going at full blast because it is actually rather cold. So, it is Monday. I thought I would tell you what's on the program reading-wise for me this week. First up is La Vengeance m'appartient by Marie NDiaye. I've mentioned this author before as one that I really like. This came out a couple of years ago in France, and I had vaguely kind of had it in my antennae. It also came out in English at the end of 2023, so probably I think that's why I picked this up. I think I had it closer to my the front of my brain as a result of seeing people read it. This is a kind of psychological thriller-esque. I'm about halfway through. We are following a solicitor in Bordeaux who has just been hired by a new client, and she feels that she knows him. There's also some stuff with her housekeeper, and I kind of don't want to tell you any more than that. It's a lot about the past, the perceived past, narratives, the narratives that we tell about our lives, about who we are, class, and we'll see. But it is definitely a thrilling ride so far, as her books often are, and I'm enjoying it very much. I also started rereading yesterday Blueberries by Elena Savage because I was influenced to do so by BookTube. I read this 2 years ago, I think, in 2021, I think, and it was a book that I really liked then. It's a collection of essays. And recently-ish, not that recently, but in the past few months, Grandpa's Book Club, Charlie and Nathan's Nook were buddy reading it, and I got jealous and felt left out, and it made me want to revisit. So I'm enjoying dipping back into those. I don't know if I'll reread all of those essays, but I reread the first two yesterday morning over breakfast, and I can't actually say that I enjoyed the first one. It's a very good essay, but it's about sexual assault. And speaking of narratives, also the kind of narratives that we get to tell. So I don't know if I enjoyed it, but it is a tremendously compelling read. I'm also listening to the audiobook of Seduction by Karina Longworth. This is about the women around Howard Hughes. So it's sort of a biography of Howard Hughes, but really mostly through all of the various women whom he kind of gathered around himself. You might know the name Karina Longworth because if you are a podcast listener, she hosts the very good Hollywood podcast, You Must Remember This, which I highly recommend as well. So listening to her read her book is very much like listening to a very long form podcast. It is a voice which I know, and the type of digging and research that she does for her podcast is excellent, and it's very similar to the type of digging and podcast and narrative that she has in her book. So it is of a kind, and I'm enjoying listening to that while taking walks. And then I want to talk about some books that I have bought, because many books have been bought. We've got stacks of books. We have been frequenting the local bookseller very much. Only half of these are for me specifically, so let's not get carried away. I have here all four of the Neapolitan quartet by Elena Ferrante in French. I had the idea of getting these for my aunt who had never read them, and it was a successful purchase. I have not read volumes 3 and 4, so I might take them with me, or I might just leave them for the household. I think these might just be household books. I also got Des âmes simples by Pierre Adrian. I have mentioned Pierre Adrian before because I really liked his book Que reviennent ceux qui sont loin. So bought this one. I have not read it. I don't know anything about it really, but because I liked this author, figured it could be interesting. The things that are definitely coming back with me to New York are the following. I have mentioned this purchase, Simone de Beauvoir, Le Deuxième Sexe, The Second Sex, volumes 1 and volume 2. Will I get into this chunky chunk this year? That's the plan, so let's see. Friends, I'm really struggling to give the pithy account of what I have. This was not meant to be this stressful. Okay, 4 more books. I have Robert Desnos poetry. I like this poet. I'm glad to have a collection of his poetry. Yves Bonnefoy, L'écharpe rouge. This is also poetry adjacent. I don't know anything about this really, but I believe it is about kind of the relationship to poetry and poetic writing. Aujourd'hui by Blaise Cendrars, who is also a poet. This is a collection of essays on his writing process and writing movement, I believe. And finally, Marie NDiaye, Pas dormir. This is translated into English as Sleepless, I believe. I recently saw Hannah talk about this, and that kind of put it in my mind to pick it up when I saw it at the bookstore. So, quite a good collection of stuff, I think. A few objects that are not actually books are this little bag given to us for free, this little folio swag because we bought so many goddamn books. So I will definitely be making use of this guy. I like him a lot. It's great. And 2 cahiers, because I love the way the traditional school French ruling, this is what I use a lot. So I'm bringing back one of these for a friend. I usually stock up on just basic cahiers when I'm here because this is my favorite type of rule to write on, especially when I'm writing about music, because you can just turn it into a staff as well. All right, now I'm gonna go practice. So I'm going to bed right now, and I'm gonna get up at 1:10 a.m. because I have an evening class, New York time tonight. And could I have probably missed this? Of course. But out of sheer obstinacy and idiocy, I've decided that no, I will absolutely do this tonight. So let's see. I'm bringing in the lemon trees because it's snowing. Que j'aime ta tête, que tu es beau, très très joli.
C'est un personnage.
Okay, so first of all, the most important thing is that it snowed yesterday, and it was a goddamn delight. I saw this in the later morning because, let's be honest, I am not rising early these days, and I was just filled with childish glee. I immediately ran downstairs, almost scaring my household with the amount of glee that I was just projecting out into the world. I went out and I frolicked in the snow, took videos. It was wonderful. Number 2, I have indeed been doing classes in the middle of the night, both Monday and Tuesday night, so I survived that. Did I do a good job? I think so. Was it good for me? Probably not. Do I feel kind of physically out of sorts as a result of a very weird sleep regime? Absolutely. Was this a good idea? No. But we did it. We did it. Number 3, I am going back to New York tomorrow. I have to pack. I hate traveling. It's really funny because I have traveled so much all of my life and I absolutely loathe it. It's not that hard. I don't carry that much stuff. I have so many privileges on my side. And yet, I absolutely loathe it. It doesn't help that I am in a really, really isolated part of the world right now, and so it's a really multi-step process. I'm gonna take an early train to Paris tomorrow morning, then I'm gonna go to the airport, then I'm going to take a flight that is not that long, but I don't like it. Anyway, so if everything goes to plan, presumably, tomorrow night I will be in New York. And finally, the fourth order of business is that I finished La Vengeance m'appartient. I like this book a lot. I found it very thrilling and very upsetting. I think I am not the only one. I was looking at user reviews on Storygraph for this, and people tend to be really into it or really not. There are a lot of 2-star reviews and then a lot of like 4 or 5. And I get it, because this is potentially very, very frustrating. It is an extremely obtuse book. I don't know how it reads in English. I was trying to see if people liked it more in French or in English, if French language reviews were seeming more positive. Maybe, I'm not sure, but this is potentially very frustrating. It's in third person, but we're very much stuck in the perspective of our protagonist, Maître Suzanne, while she interacts with various people around her. And it's absolutely impossible to tell what people are thinking and why, and what motivates them, and even kind of what's going on. Maître is the honorific that you give to a lawyer. So we never even learn our protagonist's first name. We're just constantly calling her the Honorable Suzanne, basically. And we see her in interactions with her new client and his wife, her housekeeper, who is also somebody whose case she's working on, her parents, and an ex-boyfriend that she is friendly with. Those are basically the cast of characters satelliting around her. And it is really a weird series of interactions. I'm not going to give any more plot than that, basically. But it's really difficult, in fact, impossible to tell what motivates the people around her. She can't really read them, and we as readers are very destabilized as to, is she overreacting, underreacting? Are they underreacting, overreacting? We're constantly in this simultaneous, almost dreamlike, nightmarish situation of getting her inner thoughts while she's talking to other people. There's a lot of mixture of chronologies and thought processes, and it's really, really hard to tell what is going on behind people's actions. And it never really comes to a satisfying ending. So I totally understand people not liking that. I liked it. I found it very troubling and destabilizing, but I liked that about the book. I have to say, it is not a good book to read before bed. I was reading it the other night and feeling not good, and I realized, oh yeah, because this is so goddamn uneasy. I felt like my spine was in the wrong place. So I recommend it, but I also understand if you don't like the kind of unease that it brings. And I'm warning you, you're not going to be particularly satisfied with the plot. I don't think you're meant to be. If you're wondering what this shiny floral business I'm wearing is, it's a house coat. It's giving British housewife, I think. Back to Sirens, baby. New York sounds. First day back, busy, running late, which is not really like me, actually.
Yeah.
can't see anything right now because I just stared into the sun. That was very intelligent. So anyway, I'm back in New York. How was my trip, you ask? Well, it was fine because I am here. It was also kind of comically bad because I had food poisoning, which is a very rare occurrence for me. I mentioned the fact that I was not looking forward to traveling because it's actually a quite long travel day since I'm coming from the middle of nowhere on the seaside. I had the comically bad luck of finding myself sick in the train. I fainted for the first time in my life. Everything was fine. I just woke up on the ground in the train to a very concerned fellow passenger. Did not hurt myself. Was sick, and then it got better. Slept. I made it to the airport. I was no longer feeling as sick by the time I was on the plane, which was great. I didn't have almost any food that day, which helped, and I could keep water down. So it was fine. Given the situation of having food poisoning while taking several modes of transport internationally, it went very well. So anyway, yesterday I felt great because I felt very rested and productive in the way that you do when you're jet lagged and you get up, and I got so much done yesterday. I saw some people. I also had some rehearsing, taught. I mean, it was just great day. Today I'm way more tired, but I also have had a great day. So everything's glorious. I'm gonna wrap up this vlog talking about just a couple books. I finished Seduction, which I've mentioned, and I enjoyed listening to that on the plane. That was a very good thing to listen to on the plane while I was trying to drift in and out of sleep and not getting nauseated by food smells around me. And I also started the audiobook of People Collide by McElroy, which several people that I like on YouTube have been talking about. Nathan mentioned it. Ellena just put out her December reads and talked about it. This is the second book of McElroy's that I've read. I didn't finish The Atmospherians because I kind of didn't love it, but I really liked People Collide. It's shorter, at least in my memory of The Atmospherians. It felt like People Collide was a lot shorter and really beautiful. The writing is really lovely. The story is beautiful. It is about a couple, a heterosexual couple, and we open the book and pretty quickly it turns out that the man in the couple is in his wife's body. He hasn't realized it, but his consciousness is no longer in his own body. He is his wife. And she, or he, his body, is nowhere to be found. This was a really beautiful exploration of relationships and self, bodies. What are bodies but limitations, physical boundaries that comes up in the book. The way that we see ourselves, one another treat ourselves, and obviously a lot of questions around gender identity, sexuality, sexual pleasure. There's a great sex scene, figuring out who you are and what you are in the world. And that's kind of all I'll say. It is a split narrative book, but I'll say in a surprising way. And I'll keep it vague. So that was a really lovely listening experience. I listened to a lot of it in a desperately long immigration queue. It probably suffered a little bit from my fatigue. Some of the events in the kind of like middle of the book, I didn't latch onto, and that might have just been where my head was at. I'm not sure. I have to admit that. But the rest of the book, I thoroughly enjoyed. And that's it. I'm gonna leave you there.